I love this tangent. I love this. I love
go
this.
all the way, man. Keep it going.
The reason that I am so violently cutting all these things out that I don't need is because I am like emotionally on the verge of tears, goosebumps, in love with art and the things that I'm doing.
Seth, great to have you here, having a good conversation just about music and production and artistry and the muse and all the things that we get to do as artists and creatives. But man, thanks for taking a minute to sit down and chat with me, dude.
Absolutely, man. I was excited when you reached out.
Yeah, man. Well, let's get started with this. Who are you? What are you about? And like, what do you do? Where are you at? All that kind of stuff. Tell us who Seth is as a whole.
So Seth is in a basement. Seth makes music in said basement, and Seth gets paid to make music in said basement. But reality, I work as a producer under the name Velvet Year. Right now, I'm just focusing on working with pop artists and really collaborating with like a chosen few. I am developing something that's hopefully a little bit more like widespread, that's a little bit more accessible, but for right now it's just doing the producer thing and just working with fun artists who do pop stuff.
Yeah, so pop is kind of your wheelhouse then. And so how long you been in the game, if you will?
Let's see, officially from like a business standpoint, like 3 years, but prior to getting the actual like business license, I had been producing for like 10 years.
Yeah.
And then basically 3 years ago, I had a wake up call. It was like, hey, if I just got a business license, it would be putting a final like bow on top of this package that I've been making for the past decade of my life. So I might as well just get a business license and make it official. So that's how that happened. But yeah, I discovered Reason really early on with, I think there was like some guy on YouTube who had a whole channel where he just talked about Reason. And so of course I'm like, I need to buy this. And so I bought Reason Essentials, not knowing that you couldn't use any other plugins with it. So I figured there was like, I literally remember there was like some, like, I wanted to use Easy Drummer. And so I like did this weird hack that early Reason people did where you launched the standalone Easy Drummer. Yeah. And then like some third party MIDI audio router that you would open in Reason so that you could get the audio and MIDI to translate between the standalone.
Oh my gosh.
And you're just like, that's a really big workaround for just opening a plugin.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I remember I think Reason was the first one I bought. I talked my parents into getting it for me when it like first released. And it was like, oh, please, this is going to change everything. And I got it and I had no idea what it was or what to even do. And it was like the biggest waste of money. It was like, I never used it, man. Oh, it was awful.
It has cool memories though. Cause I feel like that I was going through some of my old computer stuff and I found my old laptop with Reason on it. Nice. And it actually, I got a little emotional looking at like the Scream module and like all of these like, oh man, the EdXT sampler. Oh, I haven't used this in years.
Yeah, dude, it's so fun. It's so fun. Yeah, nothing like a little nostalgia when you go back and look at some of that stuff. Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, hey, tell me this. I like to think of it this way. If you had to come up with maybe 3 artists or 3 producers that would be your DNA, right? For who Seth is as a producer, who are those artists? Who are those producers that would make up that 3-strand DNA?
That'd be a good way of putting it. So I would say definitely number 1 would be like John Bellion.
Yeah.
So
great artist, great producer.
Artist and producer side. Actually, the main reason why I decided to like go and like get the business license and everything was because I went to a John Bellion concert, and in the middle of like, this glorious like light show, I'm just like, it's time. I need to get a part of this some way. But his stuff has always been like really inspiring to me because he for me personally gets that perfect mixture of pop and accessibility, but at the same time, not being afraid to be very weird, very unique.
Yes.
And it's still like the way that like old school hip hop guys would talk about like making like a really special album that has a unique sound.
Yeah.
I feel like he really pushes for that in a weird hip hop pop context. So his stuff is always super inspiring. And every time, and it's cool right now because he's like doing like all of the big records right now. He's doing like he did
big records.
I think he did like the last two like Justin Bieber singles. He did like all the Halsey stuff, and so
yes,
it's cool.
You always know when it's him. Like there's a melody line or something. It's like this little sprinkle of John Bellion all throughout it. You're like, that sounds familiar, and as soon as you hear it, you go, oh, that's John. And
exactly. I have a friend named Samantha I went to college with, and she literally every time a new pop song comes out that he was a writer on, she'll send it to me and she'll be like, guess who's writing on it? And it was funny because like, but he's also like very versatile in terms of like genre. Like he did all the pop stuff, but then he also, I think he did a song on the new A Day to Remember record.
Oh, really?
Which is like a pop punk band. It was like a early Vans Warped Tour pop punk band.
Yes.
And he just, what he wrote translated perfectly into it. And
I love that.
And then on songs like a New York Soul Part 2, like he has like, you're like, okay, this guy could be like a 50 Cent full rapper if he wanted to be.
Yeah.
He has the chops for it. And so
ability, man.
Somebody who's that ADD with genres really
like that
speaks to me. Let's see who else. I would say definitely Charlie Puth.
Okay.
I genuinely believe that like people have opinions about his music and him being annoying on TikTok, talking about perfect pitch. But I genuinely believe that like 20 or 30 years from now, regardless of whether he's still an artist, I think he's going to be like one of like the top producers in LA, just because like the dude has like a fantastic ear for vibe and
a good way of putting it. Great ear.
Like he'll have like he'll have a great visual in his head for what he wants something to sound like, and he knows how to get there. And he's also really cool with collaboration and getting the right people to come in.
Yeah, I love that. And the third one is
always really hard. I would say the third one probably is like the revolving door. That's just like whatever I happen to be listening to.
Okay, I like that.
I would say right now, and if I had to choose somebody that's consistent, there's this band called King's Kaleidoscope that are local.
Love King's Kaleidoscope.
Dude. So I saw them I think 3 years ago, and it was like literally life changing. Their live show is amazing.
Yeah, I bet. I haven't seen them live yet, but I could,
because I have a special bond to them because they're from like 30 minutes away from here. They're like local to this Washington area, and for anybody who's never heard of it, it's like the perfect mixture of like really nerdy jazz sounding stuff, but it has a little bit of a Seattle grunge thing.
Dude, that's a great way of saying it.
But then somehow it's still like poppy and accessible, and you can like you get into a groove like with a really good hip hop record. And
the horns and stuff that they do.
Oh, dude. Good. Every time I listen, I can't. I have to be careful how often I listen to their stuff, because I'll be like, I've got to learn the trumpet, and I'll start looking on Google for trumpets, and then I have to settle into the reality of, I'm not gonna learn trumpet.
Yeah, for real. But man, I could tell that anytime you listen to that, it's like, man, how can I add that into my production? I'm always trying to find like VSTs that will be like trumpets or, brass sections. I'm like, man, that just doesn't do it. I need the real thing, man.
I feel like with brass and also to a lesser extent, like solo strings stuff, it's just like, you just got to like find somebody who knows how to play it, that can like know how to communicate with somebody who's like a tracking engineer.
Yeah, for real. That's good. That's good. Well, I love hearing those DNAs, like what kind of puts artists and producers together. It's always kind of fun. And then as we listen and watch your stuff as it unfolds, we'll go, oh yeah, that's a little kaleidoscope in there. I like that. So let's get into kind of your creative process, maybe some of the inspiration, some things that you do. Like what's your process like when you're working with an artist? So somebody comes to you and says, hey, dude, let's do this song. What's that process like?
Yeah. So for me, I've always found that the conversation at the beginning, a really lengthy conversation at the beginning, is always like, it's gotten to the point where I can't do a song without it now. Mm-hmm. It's literally like, I will sit down and be like, okay, tell me about, basically what we're doing here is I'll sit down with them and be like, tell me about you. Like, not even just your story as a musician, but like, where did you grow up? You know, what was your childhood like? What got you into music? What were the artists that got you into music? All the stuff leading up to, okay, we'll have like a 30-40 minute conversation. Then we'll start talking about the actual song. Just because I've found that level of somebody who's willing to commit to that kind of conversation or relationship, I find that the artists are a lot more trusting when you do that, when you are the one who said, hey, I'm going to take initiative in this relationship and just fully be interested in you and you talk about yourself. They tend to open up a lot more. But also, I feel like I've gotten a feel for how like people's backgrounds can inform almost like everything about what they say they want as an artist. So like, for example, if I say I'm working with a pop artist, if I know that they got into music because they were listening to Boyz II Men when they were a kid, I'm going to approach a catchy pop record different. That other than some artist who's like, I got into music through grunge and listening to Nirvana.
It makes total sense.
Because like what they define as catchy is going to be completely different and subjective. You know, to a Nirvana fan, Come As You Are, that's catchy, like that guitar riff.
Exactly.
But and so it becomes more of a. I feel like the most useful thing that you can learn with production, but even just creativity in general, is communication.
Yeah, that's huge.
Like being able to like understand the context in which you're talking to the people that are in that context, and just trying to understand like, okay, you come from a jazz background, so for you, a breakdown is going to be where the song like slows down, loses tempo, and it feels like everything is falling apart. Or, oh, you came from a metal background, that means you want aggressive halftime.
Give me that halftime, right? Yeah, dude, I love that, because what it does is it puts the relationship back into the art, right? I think nowadays it's easy to you know, if you're an artist, you can download a track on BeatStars or something and write to it and release it, and not that that's bad, but there are some missing elements of it. And what you're describing here is reintroducing that relationship, right? And pulling those pieces from the background. I love what you're saying. Like, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, if you have a jazz background, that breakdown means something different than you over here. And when you can do that as a producer, the artist, man, that's just going to bring them to life, right? That's going to open them up and allow them to be creative. And so, man, that's a really cool process. So it starts in with the conversation.
Yeah.
Where do you go right into production? Do you sit like what does that look like moving forward?
Yeah. So I will normally have them. So we'll start with that conversation, and then we'll jump into the song, and I'll try to do almost the same thing with the song. It'll be like, okay, like as many details as I can get, like literally, where were you when this you started writing this? What mental imagery did you have in your head? Was there any musical inspirations that were like informing those decisions? And again, it goes to like, the more I know where they're at, the more I can
for sure
help them in that way. Cause I learned how to do that the hard way, because I have a buddy that I work with who I have he's one of the artists that I'm just working with all the time right now. His name's Martin Novales, and he has a lot of cool stuff coming out right now. But one of the first songs I ever did with him, when we were still kind of like building our like artist producer relationship, he had this song and we were working on it, and there was I could feel it. We could both feel it. There was like some miscommunication between like what he wanted and what I wanted. And I just felt like I wasn't hitting it on the nose with what he wanted to get. Yeah. And finally, and he gave me the best revision notes I've ever heard in my life. And I quote this to everybody all the time now. He's like, the song is too orange. It needs to be more blue.
Oh my.
And that is like my favorite revision note I've ever gotten, because I instantly understood what he was talking about. Because
what does that mean to you when he said that?
Well, to me, and he explained a little bit more of like the context of like, I was trying to make it like this fun, like Jay Dilla, like, and I was trying to do that. And his perspective was the song was, he had just gone through this really tough emotional thing. And it was like, he wrote this song being alone in an apartment by himself, packing up some boxes. And so it was like a really deep emotional song for him. And I'm trying to make it like a fun jazzy thing. It didn't work. But like, and the funny thing is, from like a production standpoint, I think it literally translated to like, oh, let me turn the reverb on the Rhodes up a little bit more and like low pass the drums a bit.
Right.
It was like stupid simple, but it went from, it's just not hitting to, yes, that's exactly what I'm looking for.
That's awesome. And I love that note then, because that does give you that idea, that understanding of where he's, oh man, that's really good. So then if I'm an artist then, and I'm wanting to work with you in some capacity, what advice do you give, like leading up to, like, is it make sure you have that story? Is it come prepared to kind of a little bit let me behind the curtain? Like, what's that inspiration that they could take now and step into either working with this producer or you or somebody else?
Yeah. I mean, I think that that like self-examination is always really helpful. I don't think you need to get too cerebral with it, because there is also like the side of like having a conversation. Like right now, you and me we're just talking, and we're talking about stuff sporadically, and those sporadic things are like firing synapses, and sometimes we're like, oh, so it doesn't always need to be like I have a spreadsheet of all the different things and details of this song and the story before we jump into it. But I definitely think that one of the most helpful things for an artist who has like a song is to really visualize it in the most tangible way, to the point where like it feels like a movie that you're living in. Because the more you can like cement yourself in, okay, this is a breakup song where I'm in LA on a pier at midnight, the weather is crappy, and I didn't change my socks that morning. Like the more you can like cement what that story is, all of the other stuff kind of falls into place afterwards, because you have such a strong vision that it kind of gives you like a proof test that you can put stuff up against and be like, okay, well, does it interfere with this story? Yeah. Oh, it does. Okay, then we're getting rid of it. Yeah. Oh, it helps the story. Okay, we're keeping it.
Yeah, man, that's the same for me. And anytime I work with an artist, and they can, one guy that I write with a lot, he is amazing at telling these stories like what you just described, like being able to give you these elements that when you sit down to put music to whatever it is that he's done, the roadmap is there. You're able to go, now I can pull this, and now your musical choices are going along with what he's doing melody wise and lyric wise and time signature wise, even sometimes. And so it's a beautiful marriage of things that happen when that can be done. And so, man, that's awesome, dude. I love that. So yeah, if artists come to you, they gotta be able to tell you that story. That's good stuff. Well, hey, let's switch a little bit because I've watched you. I followed you on Instagram for a long time before we ever really connected in any way, and then I saw you do the switch over to the TikTok world, and you've been doing that for a little while now, and it's been pretty successful for you. Would you say?
Yeah, I'd say. I think this last month I hit 13,000 followers, and that was it's been a very interesting journey because like TikTok, this is the way that I view TikTok as almost like if you had to turn Instagram stories into like longer form YouTube videos. Almost, they're almost like a YouTube version of Instagram stories. But it's been cool because I've met a lot of cool people on that app, and just the main reason for that jump was just and everybody has their opinions on TikTok, and
sure
every marketing person on planet Earth is just like, you should be on TikTok, but it's like my reason for going on to TikTok was that I wanted a little bit more discovery than what Instagram was offering, because what every sort of like social media platform has in common with each other, and it's just the cycle that never ends, is this thing is created, people think it's cool, they come to it, and after enough people come to it, marketing people are like, oh, there's a lot of people here, let's start making ads. And then ads start to overwhelm the site, then people move to the next site. And that's
with Facebook. We'll see it with Instagram. We'll see it
happened before Facebook. It happened with MySpace.
That's
like
true.
There was a point in time where leaving MySpace to go to Facebook was the cool thing to do.
Wow, is that dating us right now? Is that?
I mean, probably a little.
Yeah, probably a little.
But it's like actually, yeah, a buddy of mine. We were hanging out recently, and like we were heartbroken because there was like news that like the MySpace servers officially like went down. And so like, he's like, dude, I can't look at my profile and see the bands I was listening to.
Oh, it ruins everything. Come on.
But
hilarious.
But yeah, so essentially I felt that, and I still kind of feel, is like Instagram is kind of nearing that edge a bit where it's like organic reach is getting really difficult on that. Like,
for sure.
I don't need to tell you that it's like getting like compared to what it used to be like 5 years ago, where it felt like you could actually like make a post and things were seen.
Yeah.
And now more than ever, it feels like you're just kind of treading water. And so I was eager to jump onto something that was a little bit more creatively different, because I felt like there was a lot more organic engagement on it. And so far I've been doing that, and it's felt like, how do I describe it? It feels like you've been doing something for so long, like the making content thing, and it just feels like it hasn't been working. And then you change like one thing, and then it just starts working.
You're like, oh, there it is.
Like, oh, I just needed to change that one thing. And so far, that's what TikTok has been for me. I think there's been different amounts of posting that I've done throughout the years, but I think I would say over the past 2 years, I've done like one post every other day.
Okay.
So
you're not on it all day, every day, but enough to stay consistent.
No. And if you want to be a healthy person, don't be on it all day, every day.
Yeah, that battle is real. So let me ask you, that opens a whole nother door. How do you how do you make sure that you don't get sucked into the vortex of social media? Like, because as artists, as producers, as all of us, we have the ability, like we have this marketing option with social media, right? Whatever platform you're on. We also have this reality that you can't be off of it completely because we miss some things, but there's this mental health side of it all that is extremely hard. I mean, I wrestle with it all the time. I even this last week deleted all the apps on my phone for a while because I was like, I'm my kid's sitting there and I'm scrolling through Instagram, not for any purpose other than just scrolling, right? Yeah. So how do you battle that back and forth? Because I mean, that's a huge thing. I know it's a huge question too. Yeah. But what are some tips that you've found that have helped you?
I think first of all, setting up some like realistic expectations of like how much time you're going to spend on it. So I've taken extreme measures to not be on it as much. So I have this iPad right here. Mm-hmm. This has TikTok, Instagram, and I think it used to have Facebook, but I don't keep Facebook on it anymore. So this is my social media device. There is no social media on my phone. I am never looking at social media for a brief season. I didn't even have email on my phone. I was like very strict about it. It's like, okay, reality is if somebody messages me, like this thing you messaged me on Instagram about doing this chat, and I was down for it and I didn't miss it. I have one time a day where I check the iPad and I'm like, okay, awesome. All the stuff.
I didn't feel like, man, Seth, come on, dude. Like you haven't.
Yeah. And that's the fear. Like, at first you're like, oh, I'm not going to be able to respond to people instantly. It's like, okay, up until like this point in human history, the expectation that you would be able to reach out to somebody across the world or the States or even like on the other side of town, right, and that they would instantly respond, that's not realistic.
Not at all.
That hasn't even been technologically possible until right now.
Right. But it's something in our brain, right, that goes, man, I don't want to miss anything. Yeah. I don't want to miss that, because I reached out for a conversation but I never felt like I was waiting on you. Even if it was the next day, that I don't even remember how fast it was. That's how far it was removed from my mind. But man, that's really good. So you have a device for social media and all of that. So what does that look like then for making content? Do you have to send it from your phone to?
Yeah. So that's another reason why people, as much as you can talk crap about Apple, the AirDrop is a lifesaver. Being able to just edit something on your computer and then just AirDrop it instantly to your iPad and share it that way. But recently what I've been doing now is a lot of people, I feel like, don't know about this, but on TikTok, if you go on to TikTok.com, like on a web browser, you can actually schedule TikToks to auto post.
No way.
So
that's a game changer.
Yeah. And I think there's like one stupid restriction where it's like you can't like attach a sound or something like that directly to it. But for me, that doesn't really matter that much.
Right. For what you're creating, that doesn't.
Yeah. So I actually did this yesterday. I went to a coffee shop. I had shot some video footage for some TikToks. I sat down for an hour, did all the editing, stuff like that, and then just opened up the web browser and scheduled out the next week of TikTok uploads. And then
really good.
And then they were all 30 seconds or less. And so I have them also. You can't auto schedule reels annoyingly on Instagram just yet. So I have a reminder set to repost those on my Instagram in the reel section. And then I also, I'm trying to dip into YouTube shorts just because the content is there already. So
right.
Yeah. And so I normally set it up that way. And then I will have a bit of time in the evening, like an hour or so after a post will go live, and I'll just be there just in case comments roll in, because replying to comments with like actual interaction, that tends to help a post. So I'll do that. But then after that, I don't really spend that much time on the app itself. Yeah. And I'm actually pretty strict about not being on it most of the time. So I actually have I just bought another one from Amazon, but it's a padlock that has a timer on it. So,
no way.
So you literally say like lock for 19 hours, boom, and it will just lock. And so I have a drop box where I put my iPad in it. And so literally like for like a majority of the day, I can't even open it.
That is really good. I'm going to have to look that up on Amazon.
I'll shoot you a link afterwards, but
please do.
Like, but I do that. And people are just like, well, what if you need to respond to something? It's like, there's been like maybe 2 times in my entire career where there was something that I absolutely needed to respond to.
Right.
But and you find that you can just like get around it. You're just like, if you just make it known, like, hey, if you want to get to me, or if you have a message from me, shoot me an email, and just, it's really that simple. And the benefit of it, of just having the mental clarity of not having to be on it the whole time. There is a bit of a trade-off in terms of like it, like I think some people are like Instagram rewards you for how much time you actually spend on the app. But at the same time, my argument would be like, okay, well, I would rather take a healthy emotional lifestyle that I can continue for 5 years, no problem, instead of being in the situation that most content creators are in, where after like 3 months, you want to like delete everything because it's just destroying your life.
Well, and I found myself on the up and down, right?
Yeah.
Like hit it really hard for 6 months. Yes. Feeling good. You're making some momentum, all this. And then you wake up one day, you're like, I can't do this. Like, and I think it is because it is a constant. Like even this week, with reaching out to some folks on Facebook and Instagram, like I did with you, and waiting for responses, you find yourself like always thinking about it, always like, oh, I don't want to miss it. And that's not healthy.
Yeah.
And so to find those elements that you have found, I think that's brilliant, man. Getting that lock or putting it just on the iPad. I'm gonna have to do that. I'm stealing that one for sure.
Do it.
That is brilliant, because for me, I have 2 kids, I got a wife, I got the whole thing, like trying to make this all happen. And it's easy for me to, now that my day job is done, I can work on this stuff, but that's also family time. And so there's all these little things that I have to kind of think through. And dude, that would be a huge help to just go, it's there, it's away from the dinner table or wherever it's at. And then you don't lose your phone, where it's like, that's what I struggled with, is like, I was shutting my phone off completely, but I was like, man, if something happens family wise and I get a call, like, they call my wife and different things like that, but you're always like, you always need those kind of things.
Exactly. And I have actually another step that I've taken. See, this is the thing. I'm really serious about like not wasting my time. Because and another thing to note is, sorry, I love this tangent. I love this. I love
go
this.
all the way, man. Keep it going.
The reason that I am so violently cutting all these things out that I don't need is because I am like emotionally on the verge of tears, goosebumps, in love with art and the things that I'm doing.
Yeah.
I genuinely love it. And the idea that like I would get to the end of my life and I'm a Christian. And so the idea of like an angel being like, hey, you actually would have been able to make like 5 more albums, 50 pieces of art and 17 science fiction novels, but you spent your time on your iPad. That's heartbreaking to me.
Yeah.
And I know that I get filled with joy when I make stuff like that. And so I want to have as much of that time as possible, or even just saying, I want to spend some time with my friends tonight. Like just open up full nerd right here. I play 2 games of D&D a week with some buddies of mine. And it's literally like, okay, if I can just shut this excess world out and just enjoy myself for this time, that fills me up more to go in the next day. So another step that I've taken is my buddy, who I'm sort of like I'm talking with almost every day. Like I go to the gym every day and he's there. He actually has the password for my screen. I forget what the app is in my phone, but
where it shuts off all the apps.
Yes. So he actually has the password for it on my phone and I don't. And he's actually shut off the app store on my phone. So I don't even have the option to install apps on my phone.
Wow, dude. Wow. Yeah, you do take this seriously, don't you?
Yeah. And it's like, I don't have web browsers on my phone. I don't have web browsers or email or any kind of social media. It's like my phone is essentially it. I can text with it.
Yep.
There's a couple of other apps, like a couple of content creation things.
Sure.
But beyond that, it's essentially just like a GPS for my car and like there's like PayPal and Zoom on here. But
things like that. Yeah, absolutely.
It's been a giant game changer. Even just to at the end of the night be like, you know what? I'm clocking out now. My laptops and all my work computers are in this trunk with another one of those timed locks. So I don't even go on my computer. I'm going to listen to an audiobook tonight. Like in the past, like 3 months, I've realized that I haven't indulged in my childhood, like love of fiction in a while. So I'm going through like fiction books like that now. I think I went through the first 2 Witcher books in like a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I love that. Well, this is what I hear you say in this, and this is what, man, it inspires me. So thank you for sharing. But what I hear you saying is that art is important. The music that you make, the artists that you work with is important, and that means that you will put those strict boundaries in place so that you can create more art.
Correct.
That to me says everything that I think any artist or any producer, if there's one thing they hear you say today, it is that, because, man, I'm even convicted on that, going, dude, you're right, man. I think I scrolled on Instagram more than I did produce anything last week. And I tell myself that it's for a reason. It's for the purpose of X, Y, Z. And I lie to myself about it. But what I love is that you've set those boundaries high and fast. And some people might go, dude, you're crazy. But you're saying my art is this important. So you have to ask yourself, and much like I'm going to leave this call asking myself, is my art that important?
Yeah.
And I don't know if I can say yes to that quite yet, but I want to get to that place because, dude, that's huge, because you will make more albums. You will make more art and make the world a better place. Because I honestly believe that the art that we make, we have a purpose. We're created on purpose and for a purpose is what I like to say. And you have that reason and the purpose to create things and bring it into the world and tell stories and tell, bring, I guess what you said, make orange blue and blue orange and whatever needs to be done there. And that's that important that you have to put those strict boundaries on. So, man, thanks for challenging us with that. That's
Absolutely.
Really
and just a real quick tip for anybody who wants to start doing stuff like that. Atomic Habits by James Clear is a really good book to check out, because he sort of breaks down the practical, like I would call like the practical psychology of quitting bad habits and starting good habits, and how the process of cutting out a bad habit is just the inverse of starting a good habit. Mm-hmm. So the reason why I have all of these locks, the reason why I give my friend the passcode and I don't have the passcode, is because I am no different than you. If I have access to all of these things, I will do it as well. Like on the days where I forget to lock up my iPad, I waste time on TikTok. Like I'm no different than anybody, but it's how much access do you give yourself almost, and how difficult do you make it for yourself to do the right thing versus the wrong thing. I think the basic example that I use all the time is there was actually like a really significant scientific study where like the amount of time that a musician, a guitar player would practice when a guitar was on a guitar stand in their room versus when it was in a case under their bed was exponential.
Oh,
they made it like just a tiny thing like that where it makes it easy to participate is like it's exponential. And then for the bad habits, saying, all right, I'm going to make this as inconvenient as possible.
For sure. Like a lock that won't open for the next 19 hours.
Yeah, that's very inconvenient to the part of you that wants to scroll on Instagram.
Yeah. Oh, man, that's good. Well, it's funny because I deleted those apps off. Total side note, I deleted the social media apps off my phone last week for a little bit. And I found like you're always going to it, right? I'm always trying to. Okay, so that's a habit, right? That is kicked in. And then I didn't know what to do with myself. So like I rearranged all of my apps, like, and then I deleted a bunch. And like now I'm going, man, I'm just filling this time with other things. Yeah. Like, go make something, man. Oh, it's hilarious. So, well, dude, thank you for sharing that. That is a challenge to me for sure. Let's wrap up with this, man. Give me the best book every artist should read. You might have already done it with the habit book, but give me the best book that or top 3. I guess we could do. Let's do a top 3. Top 3 books every artist should read right now.
Thank you for opening it to 3 because I am a book nerd and there's no way I was going to be able to pick just. Let's see. I'm scrolling through right now. I know one that I constantly recommend to people is The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. That's a really solid book, and mainly because for anyone who doesn't know, Stephen Pressfield, he's like a science fiction writer. He was a screenplay writer in Hollywood for a long time, and he essentially wrote this book called The War of Art as a sort of view into what the practical life of a writer looks like and overcoming things like resistance, looking at what I don't even know how to describe it, but it's almost like a blue collar book for creatives, which is what I like about it. Is it very much de-romanticizes the process of sitting down and working. For sure. Like at the beginning of the book, he's like, okay, I wake up in the morning around 8. I do this thing, check on the dogs, make coffee, and then I sit down and I do my work. I have a minimum. I think he has like a minimum of like 3,000 words a day.
Yep.
And
I believe that's correct.
And which is funny because Stephen King also has like a 2,000 word a day minimum that he never breaks, even on like Christmas or something like that. But yeah, so that book is really good for any artist who's like, I'm like, if you're struggling with just rolling into the process of being a creative and you feel like you need like a sort of like an elderly guidance, I feel like that would be really good.
It's a good
place
book.
to start. I'd say another one that's specifically good for musicians is Processing Creativity by Jesse Cannon.
Okay.
That one is really good because Jesse Cannon is a producer. He's been doing a lot of really cool albums for a long time. I believe he worked for Alan Douches for a while. Correct me if I'm wrong, but
I don't know much of his work.
Okay. But Jesse is he's played a lot of different roles in the music industry. He's been a manager. He got bands signed to Rise Records, but he's also like a record producer. I think he worked on some of the stuff with The Cure, and so he's done some really legit stuff. And he has a lot of in-studio experience with bands, but he's also a very cerebral guy. And so he wrote this book called Processing Creativity, and it's really like a breakdown of like what a band goes through from a psychological standpoint when they like go to make an album in a studio.
That's cool.
And it's a really cool, and sometimes it can be uncomfortable. It's like an honest exploration of like, sometimes this person will act out in this way because they are insecure about their childhood. And you're like, oh, I do that.
Oh no, that's me. Don't say that.
But that
number
one
3 then.
Yeah. So number 3, what do I want to do? I'm gonna throw a little bit of a curveball to Oh gosh, I just
As a book
I had a song number 3, and then I'm like, oh wait, but I just finished this one, so but I won't. So I would say probably my third one would be On Writing by Stephen King.
Okay,
just because it's a bit of a weird one, but it's Stephen King's memoir. So the first part of his book is sort of like his childhood, and you can probably skip that if you're not interested in his life. But he has this really awesome section about, I believe it's called On Writing or About Writing. But there's a section in the middle where he goes through the logistical side of writing a novel. And so much of it just applies to how an artist ventures into the creative field, and how do you weigh out things like write what you know. It's like, okay, well, I'm writing a song about a guy who, Stephen King, he's a murder novel, a horror novelist. He's never murdered anybody, and he's never met a monster. How do you write stuff that you know when you're talking about things that you haven't done? But even just like the craft of like tiny useful tips that he's like,
that's awesome,
compiled, like things like never get like a really crazy writing desk, because the second you get out of that like annoying crappy desk in the corner and you get like big and relaxed, all of a sudden all your creativity goes away, because as a creative, we kind of, our restrictions in some way give us the ability to make more interesting stuff.
Yeah. I've always said that is you got to put boundaries around your creativity sometimes, and back yourself in a corner and see if you can't work your way out. That's interesting. That's interesting. Well, dude, those are 3 killer books too that I'm going to have to go pick up myself, add it to the Audible list. But man, those are real good. So in closing here, man, just hit us with, where can we find you? Where can we connect with you? All that good stuff. Hit us with that.
Well, if you really want to connect with me, I'm on TikTok and Instagram at The Velvet Year, because for some reason Velvet Year was taken, and I don't know who took it. It says it's not available, but nobody's using it. So at The Velvet Year, or if you want to like have like a more in-depth discussion or something like that, you can shoot me an email, Seth at The Velvet Year, or sorry, Seth at Velvet Year. Or you can visit at velvetyear.com. See, that's why I really want Velvet at Velvet Year, because that trips me up all the time, and I've sent people to the wrong email multiple times.
Yep, it happens. So yeah, Velvet Year on email, The Velvet Year on all the socials platforms.
Yeah,
awesome, man. We'll go and connect with Seth, The Velvet Year, and go make some awesome art with them. It'll be awesome. So thanks, Seth.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.